will there be justice for Peanut tonight on election night? It is the Loud and Drunk election party, and we are going to be, well, we're not the news source that you necessarily want, but maybe the news source that you deserve. Moses, are you ready?
What did they do wrong?
No, Moses. I said, are you ready?
Well, then for the thousands listening and the millions around the world not, let's get ready to vote!
Justin, we're not necessarily going to be commentating on everything going on because, listen, we all got work tomorrow, and also at the same time, some of these polls close at like 11, particularly on the left coast. So, no, we're not sticking around for that long.
I like that you called it the left coast.
Yeah, I also got a little hung up on that.
Dropping bombs.
It's the sports journalist in me because they always call it the left coast. So I don't know. That's just me and my stupid tick.
It's okay.
And I'm Rush Limbaugh. I'm just happy to be here and to rock the vote a little bit.
That Ouija board worked.
With some youth people. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
From sea to shining sea.
Yeah. 2 lights or one if I say.
So I just want to say real quick, too, for those of you joining us on the live stream, right now what you're looking at is 270towin.com. This is what the consensus map looks like. We'll fill in if something happens in the meantime. While the guys are talking, I'll be checking Twitter, doing, the things that I would probably already normally do.
This is
on
a regular night for Dan. He's been checking the polls since last year.
Ha-cha-cha-cha-cha.
But also, there's a number of things that we're monitoring, too. So we got the poly market. That's right now, Trump's looking at 61%. To Kamala Harris's 39%.
Mm-hmm. I know that we're early in this, so that I don't forget it, though. I would really love for us to, because this is not a conversation we've had. I would like to talk about the poly market, and what we all think of that, because I've not had this conversation with anybody, because I didn't really realize this was a thing until a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
and I'm just enormously intrigued by it.
I have no idea what.
It's betting. It's betting.
It's betting.
It's betting on who's going to win. Yeah.
Oh, I have heard. Yes, I have heard about this.
I've heard a lot about it as well, as particularly it's in my business. I'm very curious if this will reflect in the actual results, because polls have absolutely been wrong for the last.
I've got comments on that, but my headspace is right where you're at too. Yeah.
But first, the story that everyone it's the one true election story that everybody wants to hear about. Peanut the Squirrel.
Yep.
So this story is ridiculous, honestly.
Just lay it out.
It makes me sad.
Yeah.
Essentially, this dude had a pet squirrel and also a pet raccoon.
Yes.
Which he had rescued.
Yes, he had rescued them. He had a whole sanctuary type thing, or at least a rehabilitation.
He was like a person who rescued animals, basically. Yeah. He's not like some guy.
Yeah, it's like he and his chick, I don't know if they're married or it's just a girlfriend or whatever the heck situation they got going on, but they essentially just rescue animals, rehabilitate them and all that stuff. But essentially Peanut the Squirrel was some sort of Instagram, maybe other social media platform sensation. They had close to 1 million followers on Instagram and all that stuff.
I'm just gonna jump in.
Well
real quick.
deserved.
The squirrel wore a cowboy hat.
He could hold signs.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is real. I'm not even joking with you guys. I fully mean this. This makes me so sad. It makes me so sad.
It is a sad story.
I'd rather hear about America collapsing tonight, which is what's happening.
Well, it's
than
a
hear
metaphor.
about the sad fate of the squirrel. Go ahead, Dan. That's fine.
It's a metaphor.
He was just having a nice little fucking night, and let's just keep revisiting this little sad story.
Yes, on this night, this is what's
for the listeners. I am drinking a fucking solo cup filled with bourbon, and I'm chain smoking cigarettes right now. That's a real thing that's happening.
It's what Toby Keith would have wanted.
Oh my god! Thank God.
So
Thank God for that.
From the New York Post, Peanut the Squirrel, beloved pet and internet sensation, euthanized after being seized by New York State. Peanut the Squirrel of internet fame has been euthanized after the pet was seized by New York State. Earlier this week, according to the Department of Environmental Conservation, the 7-year-old gray rescue squirrel...
How fucking oxymoronic is that, considering that he just killed an animal?
Yeah. Commonly referred to as Peanut on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Also, by the way, Loud and Drunk on all of those platforms.
Real quick, I just want to say that I hope that when I'm euthanized, I hope that people just describe me as what I am. Human being of 39 years old, commonly referred to as Pete. These things that we afford to ourselves.
He was put to, we are also on YouTube. Hopefully you guys are joining us on YouTube, so I'll leave this word out because it's a no-no on YouTube, but put to along with Fred the raccoon so that the animals could be tested for rabies, according to a statement from the agency obtained by WETM.
Wouldn't that be great if we could just execute anybody that ever did anything wrong to us so that we could test them for rabies?
He was acting real weird. Might have had the rabies.
Yeah, it's really hard to say.
Imagine if there weren't
It's
physical signs of rabies that you could judge something if it has it.
Yeah, in theory. Also in
But
practice.
if we can't trust our eyesight, what can we trust?
That's why we need to cut your skull open to see what's going on in there.
We do.
You'll be fine.
There's probably a pack of Parliament.
So his guardian, his owner, whatever you would like to call him, Mark Longo. I'm not going to get too much into the rest of this particular New York Post story, but he did post the wreckage that the state had left behind in his home.
Oh, really?
They were looking for something else other than
There were
you
drugs.
got barracudas buried in these floorboards.
There were drugs in those squirrels.
It's I saw that, and I'm sorry, we're jumping really. I know this doesn't have much to do with the election, but it's also
all we can grab onto.
It's border control.
Shockingly, it's become a big political issue, for MAGA Republicans.
So I'll argue this. Is this okay for me to jump in right now?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I don't think that it's shockingly. I think that people who are the Republican Party jumping onto this, I think is very disingenuous. I think that they're grabbing onto it because they want they already wanted to talk about the overreach of the state, and this is an adorable squirrel. So this is what they can grab onto. It's got the
momentum.
It's disingenuous.
Well, what I'll say too is when we did that libertarian episode, I said one of the better things about, at least in theory and context, of the GOP Republican Party is it's getting more of a libertarian flair to it. And so I know I'm more of a classical liberal, but even with my libertarian slant, I'm if a man wants to have a squirrel, I don't care. He should be allowed. That squirrel can have rabies 13 times over, as far as I'm concerned. Let the guy own a stinking squirrel.
Yeah, there would have been signs.
Absolutely. And my feeling about it as I continue to chain smoke over here, because it so deeply and personally upsets me that this man's squirrel, and I'll go off into my little fucking libertarian tangent right here, though I do not align with that particular political philosophy. I feel like if you have an animal, and by have I mean I consider that to be a relationship. I have a cat. And I don't consider him, while I'm aware of the way in which our society works, I don't consider him to be property. He's not an object. I own my sofa. I don't own my cat in the same way. My cat is my friend, So I view it in this framework of that. I don't know. I just feel like the idea of the state, or any entity, it could be a random fucking person, coming into my home and harming a friend of mine. I would treat it the same way as if somebody burst in here and, fucking shot one of you. Maybe not you, Moses, but, anybody else.
It wouldn't bother me.
I would, it probably wouldn't affect you either. The beer would just, spill out through the bullet wound. But
there's $2 down the drain.
Yeah, right. But I feel like that's what I find so egregious about it. It's that it's more than a piece of property, but that's, of course, the way that the state views it. And I know that that's something that's existed for a long time. It's not just, the Republicans or the Democrats or American politics in general. It's that animals are property. And I guess, from my perspective, we've improved upon that a lot over the past hundreds and thousands of years.
Sure.
Where, obviously if you go back into antiquity, then animals were very much so, perceived in this way. And so this is just a continuation of that. But I view my pet as a friend. He's a member of my family. And I think that these days a lot of people view it that way. And so the idea of somebody, like bursting into your home, like in this case, we're talking about this squirrel who didn't do anything. Like they were there because they saw the squirrel on Instagram. The squirrel wasn't like roaming the streets at night.
But that's the question. Like
people.
somebody ratted them out. Like ratted the squirrel out.
Yeah, so the story goes, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, the story goes is that what that agency said is that they got an anonymous tip and therefore had to go and investigate it. I don't care about how they wrecked the guy's house because, not for nothing, I think that, for anybody listening and however you guys feel about it, but the idea that the state shows up at your house, my house was raided once for marijuana possession, and they wrecked it. They fucked it up pretty bad. They didn't hurt anybody besides myself, though. So I kind of just take that as like a status quo of what the state does. They're going to show up and like they don't care. Their job is to show up and execute the warrant
whatever
or whatever
they're doing.
So I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. But there's like an above and beyond where you're harming another living thing. And me personally, I don't treat a pet as any different from the way that I would treat one of you guys. I think that like an animal's a member of my household, so it's just this is why I say that it's like it was really painful for me, and I mean this in a serious way, when I literally read this. I was telling you this before, Dan. I saw this headline and and there was just enough in there. It was like Peanut the Squirrel, and he's wearing a cowboy hat. And I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this.
I'm not getting invested.
I'm
not
having
again.
An okay day today, and I don't want to fuck it up with whatever this article's about to tell me. So I purposely didn't read it. And then like about 24 hours went by. I was with my brother, and we were just like we were doing some work outside, and I was getting ready to go home, and my girlfriend texted me. And she's like, I need to tell you about Peanut the Squirrel. And then before I could even say anything, she sent me the text about how the squirrel was executed.
Wow.
And I was just like, and I was like, I think I was mean about it. And so I was just like, basically what I just said to you guys. I said to her, I was just like, I was doing so much to avoid feeling this way where I'm like murderous now, And I don't know. The way that it just strikes me is that what I take away from this is that the person whose squirrel this was, like, I don't know how you don't go and commit some sort of violence upon whoever it was that caused this to happen. If somebody came and hurt my cat Leo, I'm coming for you, and hell's coming with me. It's a whole fucking thing. And I don't know. That's my sense.
Violence comes in more than a physical way. Like everybody's on this bandwagon for Peanut. The what is it called? Justice for Peanut?
Yes.
Yeah.
My brother, because he had no idea what the story was until I told him. And then this morning, he sends me a, what would you call it? He sends me a link for their shirt by 9 Line, which is an apparel, like, they make my hat.
Oh, right.
And it just says Justice for Peanut, and it's got, like, the squirrel on it. I'm like,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I gotta say, I'm generally so disconnected from any of this stuff, especially when it comes to, like, news or whatever. So I didn't know about Peanut the Squirrel or anything. But, like, I started seeing this pop up in, like, right-wing memes.
Yeah.
For, like, the 5 minutes I'm on it. I'm like, what is this fucking Peanut the Squirrel nonsense?
Yeah.
And then I did it to myself. I looked it up, and then I was like, I think I read like 3 sentences. I'm like, nope. So I truly know about nothing.
Yeah, no, and I love that for you.
Yeah, but what I would say, this actually happened to a friend of mine when I was in high school. I mean, obviously it wasn't internet famous, but they had, I think, 2 squirrels that they had found that either like whatever they found them on the ground essentially.
You save an animal.
Yeah. And they had them for years, took care of them. They had a whole, like, outdoor, like, area that they lived in and stuff.
Yeah.
And, municipality sent somebody, and, like, they took the squirrels, killed the squirrels, and then knocked down their whole, like, enclosure and everything like that.
That's horrible.
Jesus
and, like,
Christ.
and it's one of those things where it's like, because I know that the counter argument is is that, we live in a society and you need to take care of disease and so on and so forth. And it's not lost on me. But yeah, exactly. But the extrapolation is, okay, so then let's apply your same fucking logic then to just everything else that isn't a squirrel. So like Moses, you've got the flu. I should put you down because you might infect somebody else.
Better men have tried.
Yeah. But that's what I find so egregious about it. It's that the reasoning that they're attempting to apply to justify the murder of somebody's pet, because that's really what it is. It's that you killed.
Even if it's not a pet, it's just a goddamn animal that has nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, you killed a living thing for no reason. For no reason. Because if your reason is that, well, maybe it had rabies, well, maybe so does everybody have fucking rabies. So do we just go, is it just a genocide across the land?
Now,
Me too, rabies?
This may be where, and this will be really quick for YouTube, this may be where I want to cut the stream, because there is another part of this story. Did you guys hear about this?
No.
I guess
like
not.
I said, I know nothing.
Is this breaking news?
No, this has been like out in the ether a little bit. I might have to punch this up.
Eagle.
But like, aside from the whole MAGA Republicans, like JD Vance had something to say about and all this.
Oh, I think that's what I saw. I think I did see JD Vance.
Essentially, he said it's like it really is the case that the Democrats M-word. The Elon Musk of squirrels.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not what I was getting to. Apparently, the owner of this squirrel, Mark Lungo, whatever his name was, he has an OnlyFans account.
Oh, great.
And so he was using the Instagram for the squirrel to kind of like drive traffic.
Was he fucking the squirrel?
Where does all that?
Because if he wasn't fucking the squirrel, then I don't give a shit.
What super PAC?
Sexual proclivities.
What super PAC is all that money going to?
It's just
squirrelsex.com.
That was a good one though.
It's just another little piece of a layer to this story where it's like, well, was it about the squirrel? Was it about this other because there's a number of theories going around of like who dimed him out. It might have been someone from out of state. I saw somebody say it was somebody from Texas, somebody from Virginia.
It's all dubious. The whole fucking world is dubious.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of, I want to extrapolate on that just a little bit further with my own personal disgust for my fellow human. That what fucking sad times we live in where a man's pet is killed by the state and we have to be like, well, you know what? He had an OnlyFans account. Yeah. This guy apparently likes to have sex. And that's shocking that we need to like dive into that. It can't just be as simple as what the fucking story is. Yeah. The story is the story. It's a sad story. And and fuck the people who did it.
I think it's a conspiracy. We got Area 51, JFK.
We'll have a different episode for that.
Well, the squirrels control everything. Them and the dolphins.
Okay.
Well, at least they supposedly exist, unlike the birds.
No. Yeah.
Well, those
are not real. Yeah. Birds are not real.
Just factual.
No, they're not. It's not even that.
Anywho.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the biggest story that was going on this week. Like I literally saw a whole bunch of memes.
Yeah.
That was just like, oh yeah, like I want a government so small that it can't kill a squirrel.
Yeah.
That's the government I want. My favorite meme of those, by the way, if you guys did not see it, I was shown this by a friend. It's an actual photo of like Hitler feeding a squirrel.
Oh my god!
And they're like, even Hitler loves squirrels. And you know what? I don't know. It got me. I went out and voted today. I wasn't gonna before that.
I bet a Jew wrote that.
Probably.
At what point
was it you?
I'm not. I'm drinking Pacificos, so somebody's a little high on the money train.
Yeah. Yeah, you seem to be doing well.
We definitely are getting close to me being like, all right, I might have to pull the plug on the YouTube.
Absolutely. We're trying.
Yeah. So that's the story of Peanut. Peanut. Everyone drop an F for Peanut.
Pour one out.
Peanut.
No.
Yep. We wish you well. We wish you were here with us. It was sort of like what was his name? That ape? Harambe or whatever?
Harambe.
Yeah, it is kind of a Harambe story.
Seriously, though, with the Peanut thing, I know I told you this, Dent, when I was over at my brother's that night. As soon as I got done reading that and got done like scolding my girlfriend over sharing that with me, I was like, I told you that I was going to be home in 15 minutes. Now I'm getting wasted with my brother because I'm just going to do anything that I can to get this horrible, horrible scene out of my head. And man, did I drink some whiskey.
All right, guys. It is election day.
All right.
And this is our election night party.
Yay.
So, woot. Yeah, woot, woot, woot. I do want to say, though, you guys in one of our previous episodes were kind of coming after me for voting and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and I want to say, if I didn't vote, then how could I have voted for somebody that really just cares about the children, just believes that the children are our future, that can really clean up the local school board? And that is why, guys, I wrote myself in.
I thought he was going to say Bernie Sanders.
Nice.
What is it?
I wish I would have known. I would have wrote you in, too.
Yeah, right?
I might have gone and vote. Probably not.
I voted 4 times for you. In Georgia, no less.
I knew somebody would take care of it for me.
That would be hysterical if somebody just wrote me in Georgia for some reason.
I've been doing it. I got 3 guys down there doing it right now.
He said he was driving all day.
Tomorrow morning, just some men in black are going to show up on Dan's doorstep.
Oh, yeah.
We need to have a conversation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I've never met him.
So I'm curious if any of you guys have any stories about potentially voting. Moses, you probably didn't even go anywhere.
I didn't go, but my wife did the early voting.
Yes.
At our local library, and there was a gentleman there who
Was he a gentleman? Or?
It's a loose term.
Okay.
And he was dressed as a cowboy and had a toy gun. And
all right,
like in a
I was
holster.
gonna say, was he like maybe?
No, like a stereotypical cowboy.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was the fucking Marlboro Man.
Yeah.
But
Howdy, partner.
I was thinking, what was that, Don Johnson?
Oh, God.
Wow.
And
do it.
he was they told him you can't bring that toy gun in, and he's like, oh, they're stifling my right to vote.
Just don't bring a toy gun.
It's like,
you
yeah,
don't need to be an asshole.
And then they're like, well, we got to get the sheriff in because the police can't go there.
Right.
Yeah.
For some reason, like,
well,
I don't
they're
really
trying
understand
to avoid the whole thing. Is the
a cop is a cop is a cop.
I mean, I agree with you, but I do understand why they're. This is the government's attempt at trying to keep everything calm.
But then,
a half-assed attempt, but it's an attempt.
In like, my wife was like right behind him or like in the same line, and he's doing that, so he's causing a scene, and she walked past him. They brushed shoulders, and he was screaming assault.
Yep.
The guy's just a provocateur.
Yeah,
it's
and
always there for
the people that work there. Were like, no, he does this every time. Like,
this is his thing.
Yeah, this is his thing,
That's awesome.
and
good for that guy.
Like, he always causes some kind of disturbance, and then on like,
imagine having like so little to do.
He's an older gentleman, like
I like that you keep using
me.
this word, gentleman. Doesn't sound like it. Doesn't sound like it.
I'm just being cordial.
Unreal.
Justin, did you vote?
I did.
Oh, nice.
But I also, I just randomly chose from the third-party options.
Okay.
And I wish I would have written Dan, and I wish I knew that was a plan.
I don't think you're in my jurisdiction
no,
anyway.
we're not.
Yeah, you can just vote anywhere.
Yeah.
The Democrats said that we can do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, as most people know, I generally hate everybody. And I just went through and just did like a scatter shot across the people. Give them a little shine. And it was, I went very early in the morning.
Support local.
Like around here, they open up at 6 o'clock in the morning. My wife went at like 6:10 because she's been up for hours at that point.
Right, yeah. I get that. Still not voting.
Yeah, but I went over there. I did my thing. There was a lot of confusion because the geriatric volunteers can never remember how to operate anything, especially the newfangled tablets.
God dang tablets.
It's all Al Gore's fault.
I also have a nemesis in my general area that has the same exact name as me. That is fucked me when I tried buying a house. Has fucked me in numerous.
Oh, I know about those.
The whole title search thing because he doesn't pay bills or child support or anything and is just collecting liens, I guess.
That's what you get for being John Smith.
Yeah.
I thought he was on this podcast.
No, that's me.
Who are you?
Rush Limbaugh was a fake name.
But they were fairly convinced I was him, but I'd tell him he's my nemesis. and just keep looking.
Yeah.
Keep scrolling.
Snidely Whiplash mustache and everything.
All right. I did not vote. I don't personally. My feeling about voting. We live in a so-called democratic republic. New Jersey, at least on the presidential election, obviously is going to go Democratic. So there's no point in voting in that. And I don't like either of the candidates, so I wouldn't. I'm not gonna. I don't do that thing that everybody thinks is like the lesser of two evils.
That's the biggest problem with it. Is that look at the choices. Why is that? Why are these our choices?
Yeah, I'm not going. What I hate about it is that like when you do vote for somebody, they only get the number. They get the digit.
I wish there was like a failure of confidence vote.
Well, I think that's what it is. Some countries do have that concept of none of these people. This country, I think, wouldn't want to allow that because too many people would vote for it. And that obviously makes the system look like it doesn't work, which no politician, regardless of their party,
there's
wants
there is no perfect system, but
so I don't vote for this reason. That said, I would like to share with you guys my nephew, who is 5 years old, little Levi. He is aware that there is a vote happening today. Obviously, they preach this in school, so on and so forth. My sister has a minimal interest.
We saw this in another friend of ours, kid.
Who's this?
Justin.
Oh, little Justin.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, my God. Yeah, how we instill politics in our youth. Yes. That said, little Levi, my sister is fortunately. How do I word it? She's basically she does not. I don't think that she like tries to force her politics. In my family, as I've basically described, we don't have a lot of politics. So my sister merely tries to educate her child, and I love that. So he's able to draw his own conclusions, and whether these be good conclusions or bad conclusions, he is 5 years old.
Right.
So I will give it to you with this context, but. Upon the query of, what would you do if you were president? So not who do you want to be president, because he has no fucking clue what any of this is, but what would you do if you were president? And one of the things is, I've written them down here, he would turn everyone into fish.
Okay.
That's fair.
Which I love. I love. And when I say that I love that, I know that it sounds like I'm being facetious, but I really love that idea.
Can I still vote?
Yeah. I really love that that's one of his campaign policies. I think that that's great, and I don't see any way in which it could fundamentally harm what we're already doing. I think that that's a great thing. And the only other one that I'm aware of is that everyone would have to drink milkshakes, even people in prison, which is great because
I'm about this too.
I love that, and this is I'm gonna bring real politics into what this 5-year-old said, but basically I love the idea that we live in a society where we truly do exclude people who have committed a crime according to the very people who exclude them. So if you've committed a crime according to the state you have to vote for, and they exclude you from choosing them because you broke their own rules.
You know how they're going to vote.
Yeah. That said, his policy of everybody gets milkshakes, I think that this kid...
It's a compromise.
Yeah. I think he might have actual traction here.
No, I'm voting for him.
Yeah.
That fish thing got me.
Honestly,
that milkshake sealed me.
2028 is around the corner.
Now we just got to figure out if that is a Democrat or Republican.
That's just it. He's neither.
No.
He's campaigning on real issues that people give a fuck about. It's do you want to be a fish and do you want milkshakes?
Hashtag
because you don't get to choose
2028.
one or the other. It's either both or nothing. And honestly, I'd love a milkshake. So maybe I'd enjoy being a fish. I'll tell you that. Well, I don't know. I've never been a fish. I've never been a fish. And neither one of the current candidates, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump,
they aren't even bringing up these
offering
issues.
me the ability to transcend myself into a fish. They're talking about whether you should be a man or a woman, right? But maybe I want to be a fish. Maybe I want to be a fish, Moses.
Do you want to be a man fish
I want
or
to be
a
a
lady
fish.
fish?
I just want to be a fish, yeah. Oh, God. No. Well, first of all, I think that fish can change their genders. I don't know how that works.
Can
I know that frogs can.
Frogs can.
Yeah. I think a fish can.
Maybe
that really upset Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Are we? Is he tweeting about us right now?
No, that was one of his famous lines. They're turning the frogs gay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. So many years ago now.
Just look into our watch. It's just Alex Jones.
Yeah. It's just posting multiple.
You got a big boost.
Yeah, I love these policies though. I think that turning everybody into fish. I also love the concept that it's like I just love that he feels like that the president has those powers because it's like you put yourself into that headspace and it's like, wow, what does your world look like? Because like I look at that. This is why I find this whimsy with it, where it's like I look at the president and I'm like, whoever the president happens to be or whoever the president is about to be, and I'm just like, this is depressing to me. And I'm just going to drink whiskey all day and smoke cigarettes with you guys.
I picture them
having
as
a great
dogs.
time. That's fair. But I love
Makes
that
it
this
fun.
5-year-old looks at this and he's like, man, if only the president was a good one, he would make us fish. And then life would be presumably awesome. And I love that.
That
also
logic is
milkshakes. You
flawless.
can't beat that. You can't beat that. Yeah.
Unless
I
you're
think he's doing
lactose
something.
intolerant.
I'll bet.
Also,
Survival of the fittest still
Yeah,
applies.
exactly. Yeah, I don't think he's not giving a fuck.
Like we're
about
goddamn fish now.
but if we're fish and we all have to drink milkshakes, then we're all going to die.
You don't know that.
Well, Dan, we all are going to die anyway. So I don't hear what you're saying.
This just sounds like genocide, but with more steps.
I've had a
Well, listen,
milkshake.
life
I've
is
never
genocide,
been a
my friend.
fish.
You want to talk about this? Is this the Nietzsche podcast?
This is like the most extreme eugenics ploy I've ever heard in my
I
life.
love this. I'm way about it. Way about it.
So I actually I did vote as well, Justin. It was actually pretty interesting. I early voted, and it was like one of those things where I think I said this right before we started the podcast. So I went to local library. It was actually really weird because when I got there was a line, and I'm like, I refuse to stand in line to vote. Like, that's not democracy to me.
Right.
So I like.
I love how particular you are.
Listen, man, I'm libertarian. So instead, I got I'm not standing in line for 30 minutes. So I went walked around the library, checked out to see. I'm like, look to see if they had any good books. Then mostly looked to see. I'm like, wow, they have Blu-rays here.
Yeah.
Really?
I haven't been in a library in probably 20 years, so I don't even know what one even looks like anymore.
I was looking more at their music collection because I was like, do they have progressive rock here? Should I have brought my library card? So anyway, by the time I was done, it was about 10:30. I figured, you know what? I'll go check in and see what the line looks like. And it was going out the door, and I'm like, nope, leaving. Not.
Well, not about that.
And then when I eventually went back because I was just like, you know what? I need to stretch my legs. I need to stretch my legs, do this, that, and the other thing. I went back, and there was nobody there. And then I go in to vote, and they do that. They introduced that weird tablet thing now to vote, the digital electronic voting machine or whatever.
Oh yeah, that was also quasi confusing in itself.
Yeah, I got. I'm used to voting with the voting machine from 1972.
Yes, yeah.
Where it's
it
practically
clunks, it does things physically, manually.
Yeah.
So how it works. I just imagine one of these machines that you see in 1970s sci-fi films.
Yeah.
Where just it does stuff, it physically does things.
So in my case this morning, I'm sure this is pretty universal, but they wheel out the geriatrics from the senior homes as the polling volunteers.
Yeah, it's people who have the time to do it.
Yeah. And
but not the ability.
But now it's back in the day.
Called America.
Back in the day there was a book. They'd flip through a book. They'd look at your license, try to match your ID. They didn't even check my ID today.
Oh man. Justin's one of these fucking Haitian immigrants voting 7 times.
Now they have a basis for
right. So now instead of a book, they have a tablet there. And the guy that's helping me is probably 70 to 80 around there, and he can't figure it out. And there is a person that does know, a young person standing in the back. And
I love that our elections are handled by a series of geriatric people and one member of the Geek Squad.
I imagine it's
that's where we're living.
What's his name
Richest
from The
country
Office?
in the world.
One of the writers, JB Novak.
Oh, okay. I don't know the connection right now, but I'm going to keep talking.
Get it.
But so yeah, all right. The guy eventually figures it because it's half new and half old, so they gotta look you up on the tablet. Then they still have that old ticket book thing that you have to sign and whatnot, but he has to get a number off the tablet that's associated with me, and he can't figure it out. So he's got to call the young lady over to, like, essentially describe how to do it. And, all right, so I got a ticket. He gives me this big, like, envelope thing and this big white sheet of paper, and he hands it to me, and he's like, there you go. And I'm like, okay, what is all this accoutrement that I have now? And I walk in, and it's a big screen. Like any screen you've seen, like, haptic screen, you can touch it, but it took me a second. I had to realize I had to take this giant piece of paper and insert it into the machine. So you insert this long piece of paper into the machine, then you do your choices. It sucks your paper into the machine. You do your choices.
Buying a train ticket.
It spits your paper back out with all your choices on it. So you're looking at that, because that just happened, like, right in front of you. But, like, but they're not cast yet. So then you have to cast your vote, which is another button on the screen, which then sucks the paper in again.
I don't know.
What's the purpose
of
the
paper? I
paper?
had this and then I lost it.
Yeah. So it's like mix of, like, digital and, like, analog. So, like, your vote ultimately goes on an analog piece of paper, but you did it all through a digital screen. It was very
for
strange.
some sort of verification, like half-ass verification.
I don't get it. I don't know if I ever told you guys this, but the last election.
Yeah.
Mom went into the voting booth with my younger sister Amanda, and because Amanda, I guess, didn't know what she was. I don't know what the story was. But either way, they both went in there.
Yeah.
And that was, like, permitted by these geriatrics who were, manning the fort. And so they both go in there, and they both cast their vote, and then they're both exiting, and apparently some, like, poll worker, like, more or less said to my mother, like, you can go and vote too. Which leads these questions, about people say they're just over voting.
Wow.
Now, my mother, and I'll, like, full transparency, you guys know my mom.
Yes.
She was
rolled with it.
She, like, tells it. Yeah, she tells it, like, after the fact, but she was like she was honest.
Right, of course. Yeah.
But after the fact, I guess it's like one of those things where it's like you think of what you should have done, like 20 minutes later. And she was just like, I should have just voted again, because apparently that was allowed. I hate to, like, give this fucking, like, this ammo to, like, the Trump crowd is about to, go nuts over whatever's about to happen.
If it happened there, I'm sure it's happened a lot of other places.
Well, it's a. I don't know how you would do it better. I mean, so I'm going to sit here and criticize it, but I don't know how you would do it better. That said, it's a stupid system.
Oh, I'm not here to fix the system. The system is very odd, because I expecting them to check my license. Yeah. I had my license in my hand. Yeah. I don't often take it out of my wallet.
I don't really understand how, like, that would work. I know that cops give you tickets and shit like that, but they're not running that full thing.
No.
Yeah, but it goes into a national database.
But there's no, but the national data, I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna talk out of my ass right now. But when you get pulled over, as I have been, despite being a great citizen, when you get pulled over, the police take a minute, and I'm aware that they're, like, dicking around and what have you. But, like, that takes a minute to do. It has to go through,
it
like,
still goes through
FBI
a computer
systems and everything like that. So that's not what's happening when you vote.
I've had my license scanned to get into bars.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously there's a mechanism, there's a barcode on it, there's a mechanism
What they're seeing is that the license is real,
right?
I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know how it works, but
couldn't you just copy that barcode and put it on a separate...
That's kind of what I mean, yeah. And I'm not trying to imply that, like, that there's people voting who shouldn't be. Obviously, it's going to happen to a degree, but
the people who are voting, like, multiple times, come on. Like, stop that, because the people aren't voting. Like, the people that don't vote.
Yeah, and it's all done by the state level, so so, like, each
can
state
narrow
has
down
to do
kind of where it is.
I don't think that it's, like, a widespread thing. I'm not trying to put that forth, But it's like, but it is a silly system, because we live in a federalized country where each state gets to make its own rules about how they
accept when they don't.
Yeah, what they accept. Yeah, exactly. And so you end up with this, like, convoluted system a little bit, which isn't really clear to anybody.
I think that's the best way. It is convoluted.
Yeah, and that would probably, if they did it in a different way. Not to say that I want to live in that country either, but it's that, like, most countries are not federalized in the way that America is, where each state gets to make its own rules about things. That's how this country was founded, and it's still how it is. So I don't necessarily think that that should change fundamentally, but it does result in these problems where you've got fucking Alabama. They're doing it with a fucking abacus, because that's where they're at. For all of our listeners.
And it's also like you step it up. What do you want? You want to barcode a person? You want to use a DNA fucking thing to match?
You know that they do.
But also, people ain't going to go for that.
No, exactly, yeah. You need to leave it open enough that people will participate in the system, but
they're
at the
easing
same
us
time,
into it.
I mean
the cell phones and your fucking refrigerator can have some kind of connectivity to listening in on your conversations.
Yeah. I mean, that's the world that we live in.
I'm sorry. Also, if you're one of those assholes that has a smart refrigerator,
I don't get it.
I don't get that.
I don't understand that. I like the thing, if it could scan and tell me what's in the fridge without
then you're
me
a part of the problem.
But I don't get what else. What do I need internet for that?
You don't need internet for it at all. Look in your fridge. Just literally look at it.
But I want it on an app.
You
I
looked at it when you walked out of your house. We're not living in fucking mansions, dude. You're not walking past your fridge.
It's all I have to do is roll over and I can reach it from my bed.
Man, that might as well be. That's on the other side
I don't
of the
want
house.
to roll over. I already found a comfy warm spot.
Did you?
Yeah.
Ah.
I'm taking a nap right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot that I do that is probably going to fuck me in the end, but the smart refrigerator is a hard line.
I'm done with that.
Not there yet. Not there yet.
See, I'm waiting for the time that we can get to, just get to that place as a society where my refrigerator can just vote for me.
By what you have in your
why
fridge.
aren't we there yet?
Yeah, if you got some tofu, obviously you're a Democrat. If you got some red meat in there, you're a Republican.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure where that was going. But yes, the answer is yes. Yes. I am a Democrat and a Republican because my refrigerator told me so.
Yeah.
All right, so we actually have some states called
really?
early on. And the biggest one, some of these are just, pretty basic. So Vermont goes to Harris, Connecticut and Massachusetts go to Harris.
Yeah.
South Carolina goes to Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, West Virginia, Oklahoma go to Trump.
Yep.
All the obvious ones.
And then the big one so far is, in case anybody was thinking maybe Florida would go blue this election, nope. It was called, and it was called pretty quick.
Why would they think that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's Trump land.
I know nothing of politics, and Jesus Christ, why would you think that?
Yeah, so I mean, good to know, but no surprises there.
Yeah.
It's all about PA.
Yeah, it's all going to be about PA. It also, I think I mentioned this to you earlier today. If for any reason, what was it? That there's this idea from, because I quoted that poll, Rasmussen, or we talked about that poll the last time we talked about the election. That one of the dudes that works for there was doing a YouTube thing, was explaining the poll. He was under the impression that Virginia and New Hampshire could potentially go to Trump. Which, if that were the case, then it's a landslide because Virginia, that vote gets carried by D.C. It's the suburbs of D.C.
Exactly.
So if for whatever reason that slides over to Trump, that can actually make up for potentially losing one of the Big Ten, Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. Well, Pennsylvania's got a few more, and obviously so does Michigan. But if he wins Virginia, he might not need to win one of those states, and as long as he carries the West Coast.
I mean, because obviously, Penn, that's got 19.
Yeah.
Michigan's got 15.
Yep.
These are big targets. So
he's got to win PA. That's about.
He's got to win PA, but listen. If anybody's got to win those Big Ten states, it's actually Kamala, because if she drops Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and the rest of the election goes the way that the consensus was kind of thinking, and I can pull up the consensus.
I can't see if you're doing an accordion with your hands right now because you're behind the
I'm talking like Trump. That's what I'm doing. So yeah, if for whatever reason the consensus goes where Trump carries most of it, and he wins Georgia and North Carolina, then he's only really got to pick up one of those Big Ten states.
Yep.
And if he picks up Virginia, then
but is he gonna get that?
I doubt it. But
I don't think he's getting that.
I think that
I'm on the side that it's probably not going to happen, but I wouldn't certify it.
Yeah, that's I thought that was a little too pie in the sky.
Yeah,
because if he wins Virginia, like I'm doing the math right now, like
and then it's a landslide. One
yeah.
way.
Well, even then, like all he would have to do, he doesn't have to win a Big Ten state. He could just win Arizona and then just pick up all the states he's supposed to win, and it's over. There's no way Kamala can get to 270.
My suspicion is that it's going to be insanely close. They're going to fight about it, and that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, and then this is something that I think we talked about off mic, but both parties now have become parties where it's just like they're 1997, maybe late 1996, Bret Hart, where everything is just a damn conspiracy.
Yeah.
And
it's like sometimes you fucked yourself.
Yeah, it's just like Bret screwed Bret.
Yeah,
and it's to a degree, it's annoying. Actually, to a degree, it's very annoying. Like,
tell me how you really.
Well, it's a high degree.
Yeah, it's like I get annoyed by it because what was it? Hillary was saying all the things about the 2016 election,
right,
and then. So did Stacey Abrams. I think that was the 2018 election in Georgia.
In Georgia, yeah.
And then she was saying that wasn't, kosher on her end. And then, depending on which side you lean on, you think something happened in 2020 with Trump. And it's just like, stop. Like, I understand that you think something happened, but it doesn't, like, unless you think
you're just wishing.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh, like, it's like a sports game.
Unless
like, I wish he made that 3-pointer at the last second.
Yeah,
and he didn't, but
or you're just like, well, we would have won that game if the refs didn't get involved. Well, it's like, well, if the refs cost you the game, then theoretically you didn't have the best game plan because maybe you should have scored the touchdown or scored the goal when you had the opportunity.
If you're so fucking great, then fucking do it.
Yeah,
but don't sit here and bitch after the fact.
Yeah,
whoever you
if you lost, you lost, and regardless of what the reason is,
the system that we have is to say that it's imperfect is an understatement. But there's this idea that people put forth that the system should be superior to what it is, which negates the reality that the people who are doing it are indeed people. So the people who are measuring
robots,
who are judging
I will throw in a little inside baseball right now. I work for the post office. It's not a secret. The last big election, COVID times, was fucking horrendous because it was so many mail-in ballots.
Yeah.
And we got beat to shit, and it was our fault, and that's fine. Whatever. This time around, much less of that, thankfully. But the amount of ballots that came in today, and they will be counted, but the amount of the application for the ballot that was mailed out today was insane.
Oh, yeah.
I
believe it.
It's such a ridiculous thing for you guys who have had to have done in 2020 in the first place. It's like without any sort of like prep, without any sort of precedent. It's like, oh, by the way, everybody at the post office, carry the election for us.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, do all the work.
Do all the work, and then,
And we were all just primed to be the scapegoat, no matter how it went.
And that's just it, because both of the parties just want to blame somebody for their own fucking failures.
Yeah.
But again, the reality of it is that your failure is that you failed.
Yeah.
It's that you failed.
Yeah,
The Democratic Party failed. They failed. As far as Americans are concerned, I'll speak for fucking everybody right now, that the Democratic Party failed Americans and the Republican Party failed Americans. Trump is not a good leader. Neither is Kamala Harris. Neither is Biden. I'll give Clinton a little bit, but not a lot. I mean, we can go back as far as we want to. I know that Barack Obama was black, and that's awesome for all of us. We finally got a black. It was kind of black. We finally got a kind of black president, and that's.
But
a
now we
big
can have a
step
kind of
forward
black woman president.
Yeah. But it's that everybody's looking for somebody to blame for the failures of the country instead of looking in towards themselves. I was having this conversation earlier at a bar today where people aren't happy with the options in front of them, and so therefore they want someone who will tell them what they want to hear.
Well, I look at it as systemic failure, and you look at the Republican and Democratic side. I look at them at the different sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Because this is why it's systemic, though. It's that anybody who steps up and gets in front of a mic and says, listen, the country's not doing great. They'll say all the things at first that we agree with. The country's not doing as well as it was before. We're not living in 1991. The Soviet Union has just fallen and so on and so forth. the country is not doing great. There's other countries which are rising, and that's at our expense. Whether that's good or bad, it doesn't matter. But for us as Americans, that's an important factor.
It's making us look bad.
Yeah, well, and it does. It hurts us in a tangible way. I'm not saying that China shouldn't rise. That's an enormous percentage of the population of humans on this planet. I don't disagree that the Chinese people have a right to the same, winnings that we've had for, 100 years now. The idea is that because we've got it, we want to keep it.
Yes.
And whether that's right or wrong, and I would say morally that would be wrong, but as an American, I'm in favor.
But intrinsically,
I'm
it's
in
right.
favor of keeping what I got,
Right.
even if that's the expense of somebody else. But the bottom line is that somebody who gets up there in front of the mic and they're like, listen, China's rising, this is what's going on in Russia, and so on and so forth, and they speak the truth of what's really going on in the world. And they go, and we're all going to have to take a bite out of this shit sandwich. The bottom line is that person, their career is over. So they don't.
But that's what we want, and we bitch about it.
The bottom line is that people don't want to. People want the truth. If I'm understanding,
as long as it.
People, they want
the truth they want to hear.
Yeah, if it's the truth that they want to hear, which isn't the truth. People.
Sometimes
everyone
it is.
wants to hear how awesome they are.
A broken clock is right twice a day.
This is one of my favorite phrases.
Okay.
But that's
Poking
the
the
bottom
bear.
line. It's that politicians, by their nature, are going to get up there, be it a Democrat or a Republican, Trump, Harris, whatever. They're going to get up there, and they're going to tell you how they're going to fix everything. And the truth of it is that these people don't have that power.
No,
they don't have the power to do it.
Yeah.
And so they get in, and you become disappointed in them, and then you just vote for the other person next time.
This is
Every
why
4 years we repeat this cycle.
This is why I think The Rock would be a great president.
Oh God.
Give him no power. He's charismatic as fuck.
Yeah. But that's just
and that's kind of all you're looking for in a president is like who's gonna.
He's not stupid enough to do that. I don't think. He might prove me wrong.
There's that Black Adam thing, so
yeah,
maybe he is.
and that's and a lot of wrestling fans don't like him anymore.
Also, I will
because
correct
of
you.
things
What I'm
like that.
looking for in a president sometimes is just my day off. Jimmy Carter, what are you doing?
He's building houses.
Living his best life.
The guy's like 1 billion years old.
It's amazing. How many
And he's
presidents
still
have
building
before.
houses for the needy and the poor.
I don't think he's doing that much of
He's
that
in, like,
anymore.
hospice now.
Yeah.
Oh
he
yeah,
is.
he's in he went in the hospice I don't know.
He's
decade
doing
ago?
that in
No.
here,
And he's got
and
2
I'm
more decades
for
in
the
there.
listeners. I'm pointing
And
to
then they'll
my heart.
downgrade him.
No, he goes in the hospice. He comes out. He accidentally smacks himself in the face with a hammer again, and then
Still got it.
still going.
I'm fucking 40 and I still do that.
But listen, we are. We've been sold out for many generations ahead of us.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and we have to make the best of it. And
Exactly.
It's
What I
tell a lot of people ultimately is I will adapt and overcome, no matter what. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna
Come
Yeah.
whatever may.
You just exactly. You just got to work with the system that you got. We all grew up in the same rough political system,
More or less,
regardless of
yeah.
how many
Yeah.
times the president has changed. For
Yeah,
myself,
nothing's terribly
yeah,
changed.
things that
Like,
I care about haven't changed. They haven't changed.
Yeah.
I want for the police to be less militarized. Every single president has enforced their militarization. Democrats and Republicans the same. We were talking about Peanut the Squirrel before. Now I'm the one bringing it up.
Jesus, I was trying to have a good day.
I'm sorry. But that hasn't changed. Our perception of animal rights, our perceptions of individual liberties, that hasn't changed. Nothing that actually means something to us. Another thing that I'll bring it away from the things that I care about. Let's talk about taxes that every American cares about. That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
If you're very wealthy, then Trump is good for you. But so are the Democrats in their own way.
Yeah.
The Democrats had the SALT taxes, or the SALT exemption rather, and Trump just allows you to not report your income. It's
Same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, same picture.
But for us as regular people, I think it's always the same. And that's I don't feel good saying that, but it doesn't fundamentally change. And this is why I say that it doesn't matter who you vote for, because you're just getting 2 sides of the same fucking coin.
Yeah, it's not good, but it could be worse, but it also could be better. So you kind of
want... Yeah, you could get Mussolini in charge. I agree with you. But that's not a way to look at life, is the other way to view it.
I think that's the only way you can, like, as long as you can, like, wake up the next day and kind of survive.
I agree with you on the note of not letting you get yourself bogged down. When people get stressed out about politics, I generally and genuinely encourage them not to do so.
They either don't have a job or don't need a job.
Yeah,
those are the people that do that.
Like the people that I run into, I'm meeting them at a bar, which means that you've got enough time and money that you're drinking at a bar on a random fucking Tuesday night. You know, so your life is not that hard. You know, so you can bitch about it. The government's stealing from you, this, that, the other. That's fine, and I get that. I completely agree. But beyond that, if you're not like scrounging for food in a dumpster, then I'm basically just be able to look at it and laugh a little bit, because that's really all that we fucking got. Because the system is, in my opinion, and again, I like try and balance that thing where it's like, I don't want to be pessimistic, though I know that my little speech that I'm doing right now sounds that way. But the reality of it is that the system is the system. Enjoy the ride that you're on, and do the best that you can with it, because you're gonna be on it regardless. And the things that we do by voting in this particular country, and I would argue that it's very similar, regardless as to which country you look at in the world today. Obviously there's some like completely autocratic regimes. I'm glad that I don't live in Saudi Arabia. I'm glad I don't live in Iran. Two completely opposing powers. And one of them is our friend. Somehow I don't get how that works. But the bottom line is that you just take it for what it is, because these systems are exactly that. They're systems. They're not one person. And it's not to say
they're not meant to make you happy.
Yeah, well, that's definitely true.
It's the illusion of like for the people, by the people. And you have to understand that that's not true. And these machinations are bigger than you as an individual, and it doesn't care about the individual.
Yeah, it's about a society, and I think that that's one of those big things where it's like, I personally don't feel that way. My personal politics is one where I don't lend myself towards that concept of the society. But obviously that's the much more, I know that the antithesis perspective from my own is the more common and accepted viewpoint, that we do things for the society. But
the greater of the whole.
Yeah. But I don't personally feel that way. I think that we should do things for ourselves, more so than we do.
In other words, look at the internet. Just look at it.
I believe in selfishness, though. I think that we should all be doing more for ourselves. My point before about, once again, I'll bring it back to the squirrel. I was upset that this person whose squirrel this was didn't go and commit some sort of violence about that. I think that you should do more for yourself, rather than relying on your government to do it for you, because I think that's exactly how we end up in these situations. We're so dependent upon this system, which is made up of people just like us.
Yeah.
In other words, you're saying, like, I don't trust...
The worst of us.
I don't trust myself, and I don't trust my fellow man to do the right thing, and therefore I want a government to do it. Well, guess what the government's made of? It's made of people just like you. They're just going to do the exact same thing as what you were going to do, but they're going to do it with an extreme authority. And that's what I dislike about it. And I don't, even though I have this personal viewpoint, I don't want to push it on anybody. But what I don't like is the hypocrisy of it, where people have this opinion of like,
it's almost all entirely a hypocrisy game.
Yeah, I want them to do it, and then we enter into this illusion that in some way some government bureaucrat who's basically just one of us. I mean, anybody who works for the IRS or for the various different polling departments that work for the government, or the very president himself. You think that any one of these candidates couldn't be on this podcast right now, which is called Loud and Drunk? I mean, these are not good people.
Yeah, they're more loud and drunk than we are.
Yeah, and that's the absurdity of it, and our like a desire to venerate these people as if they were Jesus Christ in some way, that they're going to be our saviors. That's what's so absurd to me.
That's and that's a big thing for me too. The idolatry of a candidate is insane to me.
Yeah. Trump is not a savior. He's just some piece of shit, just like us. And Kamala Harris is the exact same thing. She will say anything to get the clicks. Same as how are we doing, by the way, Dan? How are those clicks?
Have we been deplatformed?
You got the SEO? Yeah.
We're still on YouTube, right?
We are still on YouTube. I have gotten...
I love you, YouTube.
Don't ever say I don't have balls of steel.
He's really navigating some rough waters right now.
You got to put some Duke Nukem over that.
Nice.
So before we head out,
that was a core memory.
Okay, thank you. Before we head out, I actually do. If you guys have been with us for the entire stream, then you have just been looking at random things on my browser. Studio wasn't ready in time for this, but I want to make use of it. At the very end. I'll give you my predictions on these swing states.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not going to go off of what I've been looking at Axios' live map.
Okay.
And it's some of these states, like 9%, 10% of the vote is in.
Right.
I saw that Kamala was called for Maryland, but Trump is winning.
Right.
So it's like, it's
an upset is coming.
Yeah, it's wacky.
It's very early yet.
So
for someone.
So I'm going to leave the consensus as it is because I think it'll just go the way pretty much as everybody thinks it's going to go. I'm going to say that Trump's going to win Georgia.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that he's going to win North Carolina.
Yeah.
I think Kamala's going to win Wisconsin.
I agree.
I think Kamala's going to win Michigan.
Okay.
I think Trump is favored to win Arizona. I think he's going to win Arizona. I'm going to give Kamala Nevada. And then so it comes down to Pennsylvania, and I think that's probably going to be razor thin.
Yes.
I'm going to be a gambler, and I'm going to say Trump's going to win Pennsylvania, and he'll win 281 to 257.
If I had to put my money on it this time around, I would say he will win that. He will.
I blacked out, Dan. Is Putin the president?
No.
I want to know who's winning Puerto Rico.
It's just a garbage island.
Not Tony
Hinchcliffe. Just a big sofa, but whatever.
Speaking of which, that was so ridiculous that everyone got so mad about that.
I don't know why anybody cares. I'm the only Spanish person in this room, so
you brought in Tony from Kill Tony, who is the most salacious, in your face. I'm going to make the most egregious and supposedly
that show.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Hilarious.
You know what? That'd be like bringing in Jeff Ross.
Yeah.
You're like, you speak on behalf of my campaign briefly or something.
And like nothing is like whatever quantified, but like they bring him in. Supposedly his stuff was gone over, and he
is he gonna stick to that?
Tony Hinchcliffe does what Tony Hinchcliffe does. Yeah. And then the whole campaign ostracizes him, leaves him out to fucking rot. And
the thing, I'll say this, and I hate to sound like I support Donald Trump in some way because it's obviously not where I stand. But I will say that I get why people fan around him because when he was quizzed about it, he more or less kind of was just like, "Yep." I
equate
it's like
he is the everyman.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, exactly.
He really is the everyman.
Racist piece of shit.
What I would say, because I distinctly remember when Christie was coming up here in New Jersey.
Yeah,
it's kind of a similar thing. They pretended to be this no nonsense, whatever, and people are attracted.
We
to
live
that.
in. So I was thinking about this a lot, and I don't want to go too off on the tangent with it, but that we live in this post-truth age.
Yeah.
People don't really want to hear. We're so bombarded with the truth that in other words, that facts are facts. We live in a scientific age and people don't really like that anymore.
No.
In other words, we're turning against it now. And so the way that it was worded to me is that it was, it's that concept of the guy who's in the back of the room who's well, actually, nobody likes that guy. Nobody likes that guy. But that's it. That's exactly what the Democratic Party is. They're the actually people. And Trump's just up there talking about fucking cats and dogs getting eaten. but because he says it with passion, people are able to get behind that.
It's Chrissy. It goes back all the way to fucking Tammany type shit.
Oh yeah. It goes back.
Yeah.
There is
strong man talking as it is. People glom onto that for some reason.
There is also an aspect of it too, where the Democrat Party has seemingly just said, "Hey, men, we don't want you to vote for us," which is a bold strategy, Cotton.
Well, I've kind of steered away from it, but the Democratic Party has really kind of fucked itself in the ass a lot.
So it's easy when you have a party that's telling you you're the reason why everything is bad. And you're all right, well, we're not going to vote for you.
Right.
And then you have Trump, you're you're not the reason things are bad, and we're going to make America great again. He's I guess we'll vote for that guy, because, he doesn't take shit
He's
from
not telling me I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah.
He's the only one that's taken a bump. He was on the wrong end of a stone cold stunner. And what other president can say that?
Shockingly true.
At least, like,
he shaved McMahon's head.
My on the ground understanding
and McMahon is terrible.
Of people I've spoken to, it's that even like people that are like, say, kind of in the middle, generally go to Democrat. It's like the whole way everything's happened really has turned them off, and they don't love voting for Donald Trump, and a lot of them aren't, but some are because they look at Kamala as like, in so many ways of like, a lot of people don't agree with how she was just kind of like propped up and in.
Yeah. Well, because there wasn't a proper, what we perceive to be a proper electoral process just to get the candidate.
I also can't let us leave because you just reminded me of this. What a uniquely awful ticket where it was Kamala and getting endorsed by the Cheneys.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I thought that was such a bad move.
And then they
and Trump jumped on it.
And Trump jumped on it.
His team jumped on it.
And also, listen, I was just like, where is like at least Jon Stewart was like, why are you leaning into this so much?
Right.
And like Tim Walz was just like, well, we got a big ticket, like Taylor Swift, and like Jon Stewart was immediately like,
they should have. I completely agree with you. They should have walked away from that. The Cheneys are. I mean, again, I hate to sound like I'm fucking a Donald Trump sycophant.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was like they're warmongers, and he's right.
But it's also
they are absolutely like that's what their policies were
for people that generally don't know. Obviously, the Israel-Gaza thing is a big thing.
Yeah.
And they're looking at her like she is just on the path to just absolutely help Israel.
And that's just it. It's like how do you campaign as like Donald Trump could have done that because of the nature of the Republican Party. But it's like you're a Democrat and you're gonna sit here and campaign with somebody who like almost single-handedly fought the Iraq War, and now we're just like bombing countries left and right. And not for nothing, most Americans I think like don't want to be fighting wars everywhere. Like we get behind it,
like, Trump is who he is, and he's I mean,
extra.
He's extra and like hugely controversial. But for the Democratic Party, for it to be as close as toss-up as it can be, they have done nothing to get out of their own fucking way.
They should, and that's the problem. It's that the Democratic Party isn't the left as Republicans like to describe it.
Right.
They are centrists compared to the Republicans, who are. In my opinion, the Republicans drift right more and more every year.
I would argue that it's the inverse, that the progressive side of the Democrat Party, that gets, especially culturally, that goes left and left more. And what seemingly was a centrist or even a typical, even Clintonian Democrat is now considered in that Overton window to be far right.
All right, so I know that we're not going to go too far into
this. Right, no.
But I want to disagree with you.
Yeah.
I think that, like, to a degree, I can get behind that. There's a segment of the Democratic Party which drifts left in an attempt to fill a void which clearly exists in American politics. But in terms of actually getting elected, I think that the Democratic Party as a whole drifts towards that centrism because the country itself has drifted towards that centrism, what we call centrism. In other words, I think that American politics for your regular, everyday American, or at the very least what we see in electoral votes, which is a whole conversation by itself, because the country clearly in terms of general elections, where people vote, they drift much more so towards Democrats than they do towards Republicans. By 1 or 2%, but even still, I think that the politics of regular everyday Americans is much more so about what's affecting us right now and having perhaps what we might call like more liberal social views. In other words, I might have something to say about the Republican Party in a positive way, but I don't believe in interfering in people's, reproductive rights, as is the euphemism that we use. I don't think that I don't care whether you're gay. It doesn't matter to me. Be gay.
I'm similar. I have very similar. I have a lot of very typical conservative views when it comes to certain things, but also that's also a thing. Like, I guess this is also where I lean more to certain aspects of just like but
Yeah,
like, and also I'm very much against the religious right, and I'm like, it's
I'm not a Christian.
Right.
I don't think that religion has any place in politics, and yeah, I think that what people do in their own home. This is my libertarianism speaking, but. What people do in their own homes, if you're not hurting anybody, then you should be allowed to do it. And the Republican Party does not believe in that.
Well, I mean, and I will push back on that because there's more libertarians in the Republican Party than there are in the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party will always push for, and like, yes, certainly the Republican Party will push these as well. But there was one party in particular that was pushing for a certain mandate that 80 million people would have been on the hook for if it wasn't for a certain ruling in the Supreme Court.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, because I'm trying. We're still on YouTube.
Yeah.
So yes, they're both parties, and
it's tough. It's tough.
Excuse me. Both parties have authoritarian slants.
Yes.
And
the
to
party
actually push back on and to push back on you, they're the same party.
I agree.
They're legitimately the same party
agree
because that's how you get Kamala Harris and Dick Cheney on working together. It's the party of the war machine.
Yeah.
And it's not like Trump's going to go in and clean that up.
No, he's not.
But you know what? When he was president for 4 years, how many new hot wars did he start?
Right. Yeah. That's the only thing that I have good to say about like a Trump presidency, is that I love the chaos that he brings because I dislike the continuity that the other party brings. I don't want continuity, and I think that that's the thing that
a whole new story, change things up, and do something that's interesting.
Yeah, I in that regard, I think that I do speak like to a degree for all Americans, including the people in this room. It's that we don't want continuity. The system is fucked up. It's not serving any of us.
I think largely,
it's serving the rich people, but it's not serving poor people. It's not serving regular people.
It's not serving anybody, really.
Yeah. I think largely people in general get a small aspect of that. I think the system, though, the system is like created a haven for itself in the minds of people through time, and
systems corrupt over time. And what we're witnessing, and I'm not happy to say it, I say it with no glee, but what we're witnessing is the degradation of the system that we created.
Absolute
and Americans live, exactly,
corrupts absolutely.
Exactly.
As I like to say, the bill comes due.
Mm-hmm. Everybody has this. I was saying this earlier, once again, at the same bar that I was at. I was telling you guys about this conversation that I had earlier. But my point to these random folks that I met over there was that the reason that empires have always fallen is not because like there was something that could have been prevented. It's that they intrinsically fall because empires and countries, in this case, it's hubris, and
it's always hubris, but it's not necessarily
it's this idea. I so routinely interact with this like way of thinking. Again, because I go to a lot of bars and people, and I get to talk to a lot of fucking people. And
where do you go again?
Bars.
Yeah, bars.
All right.
People have this idea that in some way America is unique, that we created a system which is better than the other systems. And the truth of it is,
it's just Americans that think that, right?
Well, yes. Every system is different.
There are some proxies that have weird
pros and cons to kind of everything.
Is different. I won't say that that America's system isn't unique or that it isn't like an improvement upon like French republicanism or something like that.
There is no perfect system. We're humans trying to figure this bullshit out.
The reason that the system fails is because, and it goes back to the point that I was making earlier, is that you elect people to make decisions for you because they'll make the decision better than you could. They're just people.
Change takes a long fucking time, and we're just watching it as it's happening. And so it's frustrating, but
it
is what it is.
Change is the same change as happens in your own personal life.
Right.
In other words, like look around the room. Which of you hasn't made mistakes that fundamentally altered your life? Shut the fuck up. Moses has his hand up for the listeners.
What mistake?
Yeah. The bottom line is that everything that's made from human beings is going to be flawed in the way that human beings are flawed.
Right.
And what we do is we have this naivete that we think that we've got the better system. But Americans are not unique.
No, we're not. And I think there is something that people, they believe that there is an answer.
Yeah.
It's a glamour.
Somewhere. Yeah. And no one's going to give that to you because literally you're human, I'm human, the people that are running the system are human, and we all at different levels of this fucking game, if something is propping you up, you will largely lean on that.
Yeah.
Peanut was a human.
God damn it.
R.I.P. Peanut. All right, I think we I think we had a good conversation.
I think so.
We had one.
We're not sticking around for the rest of this because this is going to go on for potentially days.
Did RFK win?
How is Puerto Rico doing?
I'm not answering any of these questions, but what I can tell you, if you did enjoy this live stream,
Puerto Rico.
then by all means, subscribe to this channel if you're still hanging around for the till the end here. We're also on social media, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, @LoudandDrunk on all those platforms. Also got a home base, www.loudanddrunk.com. You can catch up on the podcast there, check out some cool merch.
Hit me up, dog.
And you can contact Moses with our contact page.
Remember to tell them to vote. Today's election day, actually.
and tell him Moses sent you.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Also, if you like this and you think you want to just slip us enough money to buy a beer, hit us up at patreon.com/loudanddrunk.
Go there directly. You can't search us.
Yes. Also, if you're still checking us out, there's links in the description, and it takes you to all of these places. So for Moses, Justin, and not Rush Limbaugh, his name is Pete.
Yeah.
Oh.
You self-doxed yourself within 2 minutes.
I know. We were having fun.
Oh,
it was for the kids.
I thought we were doing a seance. Is this not sleepaway camp?
It's about to be.
Let Dan close it out.
I'm Dan, and until next time, fuck Dick Cheney.
Yeah.